Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. A new report from the state's Poison Control Center indicates calls tied to marijuana edibles are on the rise. But the information has those in the medical marijuana industry saying, don't get it twisted. Courtney Ann Jackson explains why they're setting the record straight on the regulations.
Worst exposures we see are in small children, where it's an exploratory ingestion. They see something that looks delicious, they eat it.
But that's exactly why those in the medical marijuana industry, like Kelly Williams, are speaking up.
I think it's important, too, that we continue to distinguish. This is a legal medical program. Those products that you hear the reports about, and the families that are being hurt by that, and the children are being hurt by that, those are black market products that are still out there.
The regulations are very specific, aimed at protecting kids in particular.
If you ever come across product that looks cutesy, that's not legal medical cannabis in our state.
The packaging can't be attractive to minors, they have to be in child-resistant containers, and they can't be made to look like anything that's commercially available as a candy, snack, baked good, or beverage. Since edibles are often found in bust made to look like popular candies, you should know that legal medical edibles can't look like that at all.
These are actually the geometric shapes that our law has intended. This is actually a CBD gummy. It has no THC whatsoever, but a square shape that is a geometric form. You won't see gummy worms or gummy bears. That would be illicit product.
Still, they aren't naive about the dangers.
It's false for any of us to say that there couldn't be complications to a child overdosing on medical cannabis. But if we are good parents, if we are great caregivers, we can lockbox it and drastically reduce that risk.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
Well, CBS News has an exclusive up-close look at government efforts to crack down on the illegal trade of fentanyl. The CDC estimates more than 68,000 deaths from synthetic opioids were reported in the United States in the last 12 months, ending last August. A CBS News crew followed federal agents last week as they raided a suspected fentanyl lab, possibly run by cartels trying to distribute the drug on U.S. streets instead of importing it. Jeff Pegues was there in Tucson, Arizona.
Before the sun came up, Homeland Security agents gathered ready to raid a Tucson, Arizona home.
Starting to roll.
We were there as they moved in with the help of local police.
Just stay on this side of the marked unit.
Inside they found 100 pounds of what they believe are precursor chemicals, or chemicals used to make fentanyl, a drug 50 times more potent than heroin. It's been flooding cities across the country and blamed for thousands of deaths a year. Why is it so hard to stop the distribution?
Because there's so many different ways that it can be smuggled into the United States, right? It's coming in through 18-wheelers, it's coming in through passenger vehicles, it's coming in through people walking across the border.
According to investigators, China is one of the primary suppliers for these precursor chemicals for fentanyl. And look what's written on this box. But it's harder to track because it's being shipped in smaller amounts. How does that pose problems for law enforcement?
They're not going to raise as much suspicion if they're coming in smaller shipments versus a large bulk shipment.
Last year, law enforcement seized more than 50 million fentanyl-laced pills and over 10,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. That's enough to kill every American.
I don't believe that they're doing everything that they can.
Misty Little's 26-year-old daughter Cheyenne died after swallowing a pill that she didn't know was laced with fentanyl.
I want people to know that Cheyenne was a vibrant young woman that had her whole entire future ahead of her. One bad decision she shouldn't have lost her life over. I want people to know that her life mattered.
The Mexican cartels are always trying to stay one step ahead of U.S. law enforcement, and what was found in that house may be an example of that, because investigators are still testing the chemicals, but they believe that what was in that house may be a fentanyl lab. And now they see those across the country, but they don't see a lot of them, and that's what concerns them. Jeff Pegues, CBS News, Tucson, Arizona.
Since the summer launch of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, the new 3-digit number has seen a significant rise in call volume. That's according to the latest data. Mandy Gaither has a look at the numbers and why some believe the new lifeline is transforming the crisis care system.
In 6 months, 3 numbers have connected millions of people to more than 200 call centers, the majority being answered in under a minute.
The average speed to answer year over year was about 3 minutes in 2021. It's now 44 seconds in December of 2022.
Since the transition to the easier to remember 988, more than 300,000 calls, texts, and chats have come in each month. The latest data shows calls answered increased by 48%, comparing December 2022 to the same month in 2021. Chats answered also increased by 263%, and texts answered increased by more than 1,400%.
There's been tremendous national dialogue, conversation, discussion about 988, about suicidal crises, mental health crises.
Health experts believe that's helped to reduce stigma and encouraged people to seek help. The Lifeline has also seen a lot of demand for a pilot program being tested that's aimed at the LGBTQ+ community, where youth have the option of being connected with counselors specially trained in inclusive crisis care.
Good morning, 988. How can I help you?
There has been a lot of demand and a lot of utilization of that service, which really speaks to what we've known all along, that there is a huge need in that population for access to care.
The 988 Lifeline already has a Spanish-speaking sub-network for people who call in, but this year there are plans to add Spanish access to care through chats and texts as well. There's also a pilot being tested with care specifically aimed at connecting with American Indian and Alaska Natives. All right, a new warning from the World Health Organization about the danger of trans fats. The UN Health Agency says billions of people are still being exposed to the harmful toxins. Ian Lee has that story from London.
Trans fats can be hidden in some of the tastiest treats, from pastries to pizza. The toxic additives are believed to be responsible for 500,000 deaths from coronary heart disease every year. And in a new report, the World Health Organization says enough is enough.
Think of artificial trans fat as the tobacco of nutrition. It has no valid use.
Denmark was the first country in the world to wipe out trans fats, and the FDA banned them in the U.S. in 2018. Countries across Europe, including the United Kingdom, set strict limits on the toxic fats.
There's been real progress, but still 5 billion people are living in countries that have not protected them from trans fat causing heart attack and death.
Some around the world worry getting rid of trans fats will force fast food favorites like burgers and fries off the menu. But the WHO says that's not the case.
It's possible to do the replacement and to have products which consumers will continue to buy, but that are healthier.
The WHO says Ecuador, Egypt, and Pakistan have high heart attack numbers and are still not taking action to protect their people.
Global elimination could prevent 17 million deaths over a 25-year period.
While more than 40 major countries have taken steps to eliminate trans fats, most of the world goes unchecked. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
The WHO says it still hopes to convince countries to take serious action by banning trans fats by the end of the year. All right, making history when Mid-Morning comes back, a conversation with the mayors of the biggest cities in the United States. Welcome back. For the first time in history, the 4 biggest U.S. cities are led by black mayors. Last week, before the California shooting, CBS Saturday Morning co-host Michelle Miller sat down with 3 of them: New York's Eric Adams, Karen Bass of Los Angeles, and outgoing Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Collectively, they lead nearly 20 million people. They spoke about the greatest challenges they face and reflected on what this history-making moment means to them.
I'm proud that I'm the first, but I will be very excited to not be the last.
When former Congresswoman Karen Bass was sworn in last month as the first woman mayor of Los Angeles, it created another history-making moment.
Madam Mayor.
For the first time, black mayors are leading all 4 of the nation's biggest cities.
Why does you being in that role as an African American matter?
Well, it does demonstrate just how far we have come. And when you look at African Americans that are running cities across the country, progress has been made, but it hasn't been easy. But let me just say, it's one thing to get there.
Right.
You also have to stay there.
Houston's Sylvester Turner is entering his final year as mayor.
What lessons and what pieces of advice would you offer them?
Yes.
Well, number one, we have a strong freshman class. It requires a solid team. You can't do it by yourself. We must act because mayors have to produce.
Right.
And that includes tackling some of the biggest challenges facing their cities.
What's happening at the border, I think, is one major issue that everyone is facing, immigration.
Last year, roughly 40,000 migrants arrived in New York City, many bused there by the Texas governor.
It is overwhelming our infrastructure and our ability to give care to our taxpaying residents.
Just over a week ago, New York City Mayor Eric Adams traveled to El Paso, Texas, urging the federal government for more support.
No city should be going through this. Congress has an obligation and the national government has an obligation that brings with the responsibility of dealing with this immediate crisis. This is a crisis.
Another crisis plaguing American cities, homelessness. Bass has declared a state of emergency.
A couple of the root problems in Los Angeles is our inability to build housing. It takes so long, there's so much paperwork and bureaucracy and red tape, and so the point of the state of emergency was to say we have to end that.
California has recently seen devastating storms, and Houston's mayor is leading efforts to address the impact of global warming.
Why is it such a top priority for you?
Well, you know, in the city of Houston, I've faced 7 federally declared disasters in 7 years. Who are the people who are most impacted? They are the people that are living in our vulnerable, marginal communities because they find themselves in a constant state of need and recovery.
Reflecting on the life experiences that led them to where they are today, the trio pointed to their roots.
I grew up in the hood. I still live in that hood. Nobody has to tell me about what's not there. I see it every day. But I'm determined not to be the mayor of 2 cities and one of have and have-nots.
I made a commitment at a very young age that I wanted to devote my life fighting for social and economic justice.
We're sending a signal. Where you are is not who you are. Those who are sitting in jail right now know that your mayor was arrested. I'm living the life of people who are going through what I went through, and that's why I can govern to make sure they don't have to continue to go through it.
Michelle Miller, CBS News.
There are new concerns about popular drying devices used in nail salons. We'll tell you about the possible risks when we come back. All right, welcome back. A new study is raising some new concerns about whether popular UV lights used for gel manicures may be harmful to our health. Daniel Bacchus has more on the findings.
They're used regularly in nail salons to harden gel manicures, and they help give your nails a long-lasting finish. But some previous reports have suggested long-term exposure to ultraviolet rays from UV polish dryers may increase the risk of developing skin cancer.
We wanted to understand their molecular effects and their cellular effect.
Researchers at the University of California, San Diego tested nail polish drying machines commonly found in salons. In the lab, they exposed different types of cells to the UV radiation emitted from the devices. They found chronic use of the machines can lead to cell death and cancer-causing mutations in human cells.
This is very concerning because at this level, we know that these UV radiation are actually affecting the deep layers of our skin.
Cells mutated even after just one 20-minute session. Study author Maria Zivagui says they also looked at the mutation from the cell models and matched them to the data of cancer patients.
We saw that these mutations that we observed experimentally do match and resemble the mutation pattern observed in human cancers, especially the skin cancer.
And while more study is needed to determine if the machines increase cancer risk, Zivagui recommends limiting exposure to the UV radiation devices.
Make sure to use preventative measures, for example, gloves or sunscreen on the hands before going in the machine.
Because she says the reward may not be worth the risk. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, this was a hot holiday gift, but could wearing virtual reality headsets be putting users at risk of some serious injury? Christine Lazar spoke with one woman who has potentially permanent damage to her eye after an accident while playing a VR game.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It was supposed to be a fun Friday night at home for Emily Melquest and her son Jack. They decided to use their virtual reality headset and play a game where users walk a plank and experience free fall off an 80-story building.
Right away, I just felt my body tense, my heart started beating fast.
Though her mind knew she was in her living room.
My body thought I was there, and the fight or flight response was happening.
Melquest leaped right into her entertainment center.
The impact of the hitting my head on the furniture, that eyepiece went right into my orbital socket.
Leaving her with bruising, and she says persistent pain, even potentially permanent problems with her eyelid. On social media, there are videos of VR users injuring themselves. Recently, a UK insurance company reported a 31% jump in home insurance claims for VR-related injuries. Meta, which is the parent company of the Oculus VR headset, includes safety information in the packaging and online. Users are required to set up a virtual boundary, and they're encouraged to clear a safe space before using the headset. In a statement to us, a Meta spokesperson said, "We take the safety of people who use our Meta VR devices seriously." Experts also recommend taking breaks every 30 minutes when you use a VR headset. And if the headset affects your balance or makes you feel funny, stop using it immediately. Christine Lazar, CBS News, Los Angeles.
All right, so technology is changing the shopping experience. Elise Preston went to the National Retail Federation's annual expo to get a firsthand look at some high-tech items retailers are using to attract shoppers.
Checking out at a convenience store is quicker than ever. The company Radius AI has a device with cameras that scan multiple items at the same time. You can skip the checkout line at the supermarket with this shopping cart from Custom-Made. There's a built-in scale to weigh produce, and products can be scanned right at the cart. Customers pay on the tablet and then walk out the door. For those looking to skip the trip to the store entirely, an electric fleet of vehicles is delivering groceries and other items without a driver.
This is a street legal vehicle. It operates up to 25 miles an hour.
The autonomous Noro can find an address on its own and is currently on roads in Northern California and Texas. Walmart, FedEx, and Uber Eats are among the companies using it, allowing customers to pick up items from their front curb. And in-store mannequins are getting a 21st century makeover. Verizon is teaming up with company Proto to produce lifelike holograms.
Why a hologram for an experience?
Well, as you can see here, it does create a very lifelike representation of actual products. So sometimes even when products are first launched, they may not actually be delivered to the store yet, but it allows you to debut and showcase items to your consumers as soon as they're released.
Verizon's Jason Stevens let us try it out. A special camera projects a live 3D image to the Proto box nearby. Inside a store, a live or recorded hologram could interact with customers.
What do you think of this look? How about I have a sales associate go grab it for you while you go check out the shoes?
Burberry is currently using it to show off clothes and bags, giving shoppers a high-tech look at the luxury brand's latest high-end items.
Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Forever stamps now cost a few more cents. The price of the stamps that never expire went up 3 cents. On Sunday, they now cost 63 cents. The U.S. Postal Service announced the increase back in October. Other types of shipping also went up. First-class mail is just over 4% more expensive. 1 ounce metered mail now costs 60 cents, and domestic postcards are now 48 cents. All right, it's one of the country's fastest growing sports. A closer look at professional bull riding when we come back. Professional bull riding is rapidly expanding beyond the Wild West. Bradley Blackburn shows us how the world's best bull riders are drawing in a new generation of fans while holding on to tradition.
Of all the places where a cowboy can take the ride of his life, New York City's Madison Square Garden might seem the least likely. But recently, this legendary arena was filled with professional bull riding fans, not all of them wearing cowboy hats.
If it could infiltrate New York City, then yeah, it's coming.
It's just exciting. It's different. It's not your everyday sport.
Professional bull riding's growth catapulted during the pandemic, with those 8-second rides a perfect fit for TikTok. The league launched pro bull riding teams in several cities. PBR CEO and Commissioner Sean Gleason.
Our television viewership and our ticket sales and attendance for what we do are rivaling several of the other sports.
These bulls are bred to buck. They weigh some 1,800 pounds, 10 times the size of the riders. They're trying to stay on for 8 seconds. Those riders are holding tight for real rewards. 2022 world champion Dalen Swearingen has won more than $2 million.
Once this gate opens, it's got to play out however God wants it to.
The 23-year-old from upstate New York already has a lifetime's worth of injuries.
Shoulder surgery, hip surgery, foot surgery. I had a surgery on my jaw.
Those high stakes are one reason PBR is attracting so many eyeballs. It's also drawing protests from some animal rights activists.
Bull riding's cruel, it has to go. MSG don't host the show.
They're not mistreated. They're worth $500,000 to $1 million.
What Gleason sees is another frontier in sports betting, and he's focused on recruiting new riders.
We're only gated right now by the number of bull riders we can get on bulls.
A sport that's roping in fans and proving interest in the Wild West runs coast to coast. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
PBR events air exclusively on CBS Sports with a pre-pandemic average of more than 1 million viewers per broadcast. And we will be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, then we're all out of time. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great day.